You don't have to reach for anything else. Oh my God, I just spilled everywhere. Okay. What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a makeup collection video. I'm going to show you my entire collection of makeup palettes. I really love watching makeup collection videos on YouTube, so I wanted to make my own. Obviously, I'm not a huge channel and I don't get sent PR, so all the products you're gonna see in the video today have been purchased with my own money. However, speaking of PR, I do have some exciting news. I just received an email last night letting me know that I'm going to be sent some free product in the mail for my review, which is so exciting, so I can't wait to receive it, open it up, and test it out on camera for you guys, so be on the lookout for that. Also, as you know, I am working on getting to 500 subscribers as my first YouTube goal, and I'm very, very close. I think as of filming this, I have 484 subscribers, so we're very, very close to that 500 mark. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button before you leave today so that I can get that 500 subscriber giveaway going. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's video. If you want to see my entire palette collection, keep watching. So most of my palettes are eyeshadow palettes. I do have a couple of other palettes that I'm going to show you today as well. But the first thing I want to talk about is all of my mini palettes. So these are just little palettes that I've bought for one reason or another, and I'm just going to run through them really quickly. The first one is this. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Vintage Vamp eyeshadow palette. So I absolutely love this palette. Here is the inside of it. It has this really gorgeous pink color that reminds me a lot of Anastasia Pink Champagne, which is one of my favorite shadows. Speaking of which, then it also has this really pretty gold shimmery color, a darker mauve color, and a really dark, rich purple color. I really love this eyeshadow palette, but it was really expensive, so I only use it when I'm looking for a really super high glam look. Otherwise, I'll go into some of my other palettes because I want to kind of save this one, I guess. I bought this when I was in London on a work trip, and I really love it, so I don't dip into it too often, but that's only because it was so expensive and I love it so much. My next little palette is this one. This is the Kylie Cosmetics Smooch palette. This actually came out as part of her Valentine's Day collection, and when I saw this, I really love the shades in it. So this is a really deep, rich berry color, and this is a nice sort of warm, shimmery pink color. As you can tell, I sort of gravitate towards the same color shades all the time. And this also came with two lip minis. One was Dame Gina Gloss and one was the Gorge liquid lipstick, and I just really loved all of the products in this little bundle, so that's why I picked this one up. My next little palette that I have is this one. This is the Too Faced Mini Chocolate Bar palette, and the reason why I love this palette is because it actually has the Chocolate Soleil bronzer in it, in addition to 3 colors of eyeshadow. I really love this palette for traveling because it does have bronzer and 3 eyeshadows, and this eyeshadow, Champagne Truffle, can also be used as a highlight shade. So I find it really versatile, and it's great for traveling when you don't want to take too many products with you. And it smells like chocolate, and that's never a bad thing. The next little palette that I have is this one. This is the Smashbox Cosmetics Cover Shot palette. This is the Bold Eye palette. And the reason why I have this palette is not because I like to rock these rainbow shades on a daily basis, believe it or not, but I actually have this palette because I'm a competitive dance instructor, and I created a routine with 2 girls that was an LGBT support piece. And so I used the colors in this palette to create a makeup look on them. And I'll insert a photo of that right here. Oh my God, they're totally gonna kill me for that. But anyways, that's why I have this palette, and I actually found the shades in this palette to be super pigmented and really good. So it's just nice to be able to have colors like this just in case I need it for a specialty eye look, or if I'm looking for like a really bright blue or a bright purple for a pop of color or something like that. But I don't really dig into this palette very often. The next little palette that I have is this one. This is the Tartelette Tease palette. The reason why I picked this palette up is also for travel. I really like the neutral shades in this palette. So there's 2 matte lighter shades, 2 shimmer shades, and then 2 darker matte shades. And I think that this is like a great palette that you can put together an entire eye look with, that you don't need anything else. I just got really excited there and just threw this palette, and it hit my glass and champagne went everywhere. Okay, we're back in business. So, as I was saying, to me, that's the best thing about an eyeshadow palette, is if you can create an eye look from start to finish, including a crease shade, a lid shade, a darker crease shade, and some highlight shades. So that's really why I like this palette, is because you can create an entire eye look with it, so it's great for travel. And the last little palette that I have is this one. This is the Becca and Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette collaboration. And I'm actually glad that I got my hands on this palette when I did, because there was a little bit of a controversy surrounding this palette, and Becca and Jaclyn Hill discontinued it very quickly. So Jaclyn Hill came out on her Snapchat and she apologized, and then Becca and Jaclyn Hill quickly discontinued the palette, pulled all the stock from the shelves, and nobody was able to get it anymore. So I feel really lucky to have gotten it because I actually really love this palette. I didn't have any problems with chalkiness or bad pigmentation or anything like that. Mine wasn't dusty, it blends really beautifully, and this shade right here, Champagne Toast, is really, really pretty. Just to give you an idea, I'll just swatch this dark color for you. See, the shadow swatches really, really beautifully. So I don't know what the problem was. I think that maybe some of the palettes were made in a different lab than some of the other palettes, and some people got good palettes and some people got bad palettes. I do feel like I got one of the good ones, so I feel very lucky to get this because you absolutely cannot get this anymore. It was discontinued right away. So those were all of my little palettes. Now let's go ahead and get into some face palettes. I only have 4 non-eyeshadow palettes in my collection, and I'll go through them each now and show them to you. So the first one here is the Becca and Jaclyn Hill face palette collaboration. So this is actually a palette that has 2 highlighters, 2 blushes, and 1 blush topper. So this is Champagne Pop and this is Prosecco Pop. And then this one is called Rosé Spritz, and this is actually a like sparkly luminous blush topper. And then there's 2 blush shades in here. This one is Pamplemousse and this one is Amaretto. Now I actually use Amaretto as more of a bronzer, especially on the winter days when I'm feeling exceptionally pale. I don't normally wear brown blushes like this, so this one I use definitely more as a bronzer or to warm up my cheeks. This Pamplemousse color is extremely pigmented. I really, really love it. It's gorgeous. Like you can see, wowza. I'll just swatch it for you right here. So it's a very, very beautiful pink blush color, but it's a little dark for me. So I tend to mostly stick to the 2 highlight shades and this blush topper, which is really beautiful. The next palette I have is a highlight and contour palette. This is by IBY Beauty, and I got this in a BoxyCharm box. As I understand it, this palette is meant to be a dupe for the Anastasia highlight and contour kit. So I found this palette has performed pretty well, but I don't normally use highlight powder underneath my eyes, and the bronzers in this palette are nice, but they don't really compare to some of my Ride or Die bronzers, so I don't really find myself reaching for this palette very much, but it is good to have in case I am traveling and I do need a couple of options for bronzer and highlighter. So I am keeping this in my collection, but I don't really reach for it too often. The next one I have is, oh my god, a Ride or Die. This is the Anastasia and Nicole Guerrero Glow Kit. This is a highlighter palette. There are 6 gorgeous shades in here. I actually picked this as one of my first favorites on my channel. I absolutely love this highlighter palette. It is so beautiful. If you do not have this yet, I highly recommend you pick it up. When I first looked at the pans in this palette, I was a little bit nervous because I'm like, ooh, that's a bright coral, that's a bright purple, that's a bright pink. But these are like not as colored as what they look like in the pan. When you put them on your face, you just get this really intense, beautiful, blinding glow, and there's only a little bit of color behind it. So I really, really love this palette. It's beautiful, and it is definitely one of the staples in my collection. And then the last one that I have is actually by Morphe Brushes, and this is their 9B blush palette. I got this palette very early when I started getting into makeup, and I only had like 2 or 3 blushes in my collection, and I wanted to build up my blush collection and start experimenting with different colors of blush because I would always just go for the super light pink shade, but I actually still do that. But this palette has 9 blushes in it, and it's a very pretty range of shades of blush. Now there's obviously some colors in here that I would never dip into, like this bright red one, for example, or this like super fuchsia one, but a lot of these neutral shades are really pretty, and I especially like these 2 down here. What I will say about Morphe blushes is that they are very, very pigmented. Like basically you just need to dip your brush in here 1 time. I actually made the mistake of digging my blush brush into the pans and then sweeping it onto my face, and it was like big time clown look. So these blushes are very pigmented, and they're also very affordable. So if you're looking for a nice blush range, I would recommend the 9B palette by Morphe. So now getting back into eyeshadow palettes, I'm going to show you these ones next, which are a little bit smaller eyeshadow palettes that have some sort of a theme to them. So the first one is this. This is the Makeup Geek and Manny MUA eyeshadow palette collaboration. I was really happy and excited to get this one because I know it sold out really quickly and it was limited edition. There are 9 shades in this palette and they are so beautiful. I really love the fact that this eyeshadow palette has warm, neutral, gorgeous shades in it, and also great pops of color. So you could do a standard warm brown smoky eye just using these colors right here, but there's also this beautiful pink shimmer shade, which is called Luna, and this really nice champagne gold shade called Artemis. I used to be so into Sailor Moon, so I totally get those references. And I really love this color right here. This is called Insomnia, and it's very, very close to MAC's Blue Brown Pigment. I think it's called Blue Brown. And it's such an interesting color. I'll actually swatch it for you. So that's such a beautiful color. It actually is like a brown with a teal flash. It's really, really pretty, especially when you wear it over top of this color right here, which is Mars. So it doesn't seem like those two colors would go together, but they actually look so gorgeous together. This is such a great palette, and I really love it. It's super pigmented, super blendable, and Manny did a really great job on this. So if you're one of the people out there who is lucky enough to get your hands on this palette, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, it was limited edition, so it's no longer available. The next palette I have in my collection is this one. This is the Kylie Cosmetics Burgundy palette. So I didn't get the bronze palette when it came out because there was so many mixed reviews about Kylie's eyeshadow formula, but when this one came out, a lot of people were saying that the formula was improved, and there was a lot more shades in this palette that spoke to me rather than the bronze palette, which I felt was full of shades that I probably wouldn't normally wear. But this is the Kylie Burgundy palette, so it has a really beautiful mattes, and the shimmers are the stars of this palette. So these three right here, and then this one is a little bit of a sateen color. The three shimmers in this palette are called LA, Dubai, and New York, and they are really, really gorgeous. You wear them all over the lid. I usually apply them with my finger because I feel like that's how they go on the best, but I actually really love this palette, and it gives me more confidence in Kylie's eyeshadow formula, and it makes me want to buy the Royal Peach palette, so I might have to hop online and do that. The next palette I have in my collection you've already seen if you've been watching my videos, and that is the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette. I won't say too much about this palette because there is a full review of this palette on my channel already, but it does have unbelievably gorgeous matte shades in it. They are super blendable, super pigmented. So if you want to know more about this palette, go check out that video if you haven't already. It also went a little bit viral, like viral for me because I'm not used to having 6,700 views on a video on my channel at all. So check it out if you haven't already. And the next one I have here is the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I actually talked a little bit about this one in my other video when I was talking about the Just Peachy Mattes palette, but this is a really gorgeous eyeshadow palette as well. I don't think that it has as good of pigmentation and blendability as the Just Peachy Mattes or as some of my other eyeshadow palettes, but it has really beautiful colors in it, and if you just work with the pigment a little bit, you can get a really beautiful eye look out of this, and it smells like absolutely divine, so like it's worth it for that alone. I remember when the Sweet Peach palette first came out, I looked at it and thought, oh, I don't know, and then I started watching YouTubers using it in their videos and it looked super great, and then it was out of stock for the longest time, and then it finally came back with a whole Peaches collection, so I think it's actually permanent now, so if you want to go pick up the Sweet Peach palette, you can. There are some really beautiful shades in here and it is worth the money, and the smell is divine, so. The next eyeshadow palette I have is a staple in any makeup lover's collection, and that is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. This palette is absolutely gorgeous. It has so many beautiful warm neutral shades in it. It has really beautiful shimmers. So this one, Vermeer, and this one, Primavera, are such gorgeous shimmer shades. If you're looking for a really versatile eyeshadow palette that you can make a lot of different neutral toned looks with, this would actually be a big recommendation of mine. I think that every single shade in this palette is so usable, and you can create so many different looks with it. It's super blendable, super pigmented, and a really, really good palette. And the last one I have in this pile here is this one. This is the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. This palette was a little bit of a splurge of mine because it is super duper expensive, especially for an eyeshadow palette that only has 15 shades in it. It was $187 Canadian, which is crazy, but it was absolutely worth every penny. Every shade in this whole palette is so pigmented, so beautiful, so gorgeous, blends like a dream, so nice, and this is like right up my alley. Every single shade in this palette is just like what I want on my eyes all the time for the rest of my life. The reason why I think this palette is so worth the money is because the quality of the shadows is so unbelievably good, and also every single shade in this palette is usable, and you can make so many different warm sunset looks with it. So yes, it is really expensive, but it's absolutely 100% worth the money. Now I saw that Natasha Denona is coming out with another palette that's sort of a sister to this, and it's called the Lila palette, and I think it has lots of like rich, warm, purpley tones. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pick that one up just because I don't tend to wear super colorful looks that often. Same with the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. I was looking at that one and it looks so beautiful, but I'm just not sure that I would get a ton of use out of it. But let me know if you guys would like a review either on the Natasha Denona Lila palette or the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, because if you want me to go out and buy them, I guess I will twist my rubber arm. So the next 3 palettes that I'm going to talk about here are actually my custom palettes. So back in the day when I was first starting my makeup collection, I was totally a MAC girl. I was like a whore for MAC. I wanted every single product in that entire store, especially all of the eyeshadows. So a lot of the single shadows in my collection are MAC shadows. And then as I started getting more into makeup and branching out and trying different brands, I bought a lot of Anastasia single shadows and Makeup Geek single shadows. So I actually have almost 2 full Z palettes here of shadows that I've purchased individually. I'm gonna show you this MAC one that I have. This is like so old and busted and janky, but it's like a 2 palette that opens like this, and I have like all of my MAC shadows that I don't really use on a regular basis in here. So I have like those, and I'll reach for them if I need to, but I find that these shadows have really become obsolete in my collection because the pigmentation of MAC shadows, especially back in the day, is not great compared to the kinds of shadows that you can get nowadays. So I have this palette in my collection, but I don't really reach for it unless there's a specific shade I need for a specific look that's in here, but that's not very often. So the first Z palette I have is this one, and this is actually full of all of my favorite single shadows. This is a custom palette that I put together just for myself that has all of the shadows that I love in it. I've showed this before in my Holy Grail products video. So these are all of my favorite single shadows from MAC, Makeup Geek, Anastasia Beverly Hills, and now ColourPop, which has made it into here as well. So I love every single shadow in this palette. I take this with me when I'm traveling because it has every shadow that I need to do every single go-to look that I have in my head. My only complaint with this is that I wish the Z palettes were a little bit more sturdy, because there's been a couple of times where I've had shimmery shadows that I've taken with me when I'm traveling, and then the powders break up in the pan just from like being in my luggage and jostling around in my suitcase. So what I actually do is I wrap this in my clothes and it protects it a little bit better. But let me know if you would like a dedicated video on all of the shadows in this collection. I can show you why I love them and swatch them for you and let you know what different looks that I create with this palette. And then I have a second extra large Z palette where I keep the individual shadows that I have in my collection that I don't reach for on a regular basis. So you'll see a lot more pops of color in here, and there's also some shadows in here that are dupes or duplicates of shadows that I already have in the other palette that I don't need 2 of. And then I also have these ones up here. These 3 are actually MAC pressed pigments that I depotted and put into the Z palette. This is the Becca Rose Gold Highlighter, which I also depotted and put in here. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of depotting things. I don't really like to have a super cluttery makeup collection, and so I used to have actually tons of these individual MAC eyeshadow pots, and so I watched a depotting video on YouTube and was able to safely depot all of my shadows out of those like individual containers and put them into Z palettes, which saved me a ton of space. The only ones that I actually couldn't depot are these Extra Dimension eyeshadows that I tried to depot, but they were really super crumbly, so it was safer for me to leave them in here. And then this last one here is Stila Kitten Karma eyeshadow that I also depotted and put in here. So the last 2 palettes I have in my collection are by Morphe. The first one is the 35O palette. Now the 35O palette by Morphe is one of their most popular 35 pan eyeshadow palettes. And when beauty YouTubers like Kathleen Lights and Jaclyn Hill started doing videos on the 35O, it sold out instantly. Then Morphe came out with the 35OS palette, which is the 35O in an all shimmer format. And then they also have the 35OM palette, which is the 350 in an all matte formula. Now I love shimmer eyeshadow, so I thought it would be a great idea to get the 35OS palette, but I realized that some of the shadows in this palette are not really conducive to a shimmer formula. Like some of these darker ones up here, like I would never wear that super duper dark brown as an all over the lid shade. So I tend to favor the lighter colors in this palette. They are very, very beautiful. Like this one here, this one, and this one. They look absolutely gorgeous as all over the lid shades, but I probably wouldn't recommend purchasing the 35OS palette unless you're somebody who likes really dark eye looks. Otherwise, there's really no way to wear the dark brown shimmer colors in this palette. They don't blend out as well in the crease as some other matte shades that I have, so I tend to not really dip into those ones too much. But I will say the really light colors are beautiful in this palette, as well as this fiery copper one right in the corner. really, really gorgeous. And the last palette in my collection really needs no introduction. It's the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette that they just came out with. This palette has so many beautiful colors in it. I really love it. It is the most versatile palette I own. It has such great pigmentation, great blendability. You can create so many looks with this palette, and it really is a winner. So if you haven't gotten the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette yet, I believe they are doing another restock. If you're on the fence about this, absolutely go for it. It's such a great palette, you won't be disappointed. And that is it, guys. Those were all of the palettes in my makeup collection. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm actually going to be pre-filming a couple of videos because I'm headed to South Africa for vacation in a couple of weeks' time. So in addition to filming a what's in my travel bag video, I'm also going to be pre-filming a couple of other videos so that I can still put up content for you guys while I'm on vacation. Now, this channel was never meant to be sort of a vlog channel or anything like that, but let me know in the comments down below if you'd be interested in a South Africa travel diary or vlog style video, because I will definitely take some footage when I'm there and put that up for you guys if it's something that you want to see. So guys, as always, if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel before you leave and leave me a comment down below letting me know the kind of videos you want to see me do in the future. And if you didn't like this video, keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. Ooh. Exciting news in the sense that, stop rolling your eyes. How's the highlight look? Is it on fleek? Damn, that's a big hoop. Ooh. So what am I saying? Oh, fuck. So the palette looks, oh my god. Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's okay. What the fuck am I saying? So while it's a good thing that none of my eye palettes got hit with champagne, now I don't have any left. I did. You can see me in it. Really nice, and I especially, oh, it's so not a word. I think it's permanent now, so if you do want to pick up the Sweet Peach. And that is it, guys. I'm actually going to be pre-filming a couple